Welcome to the Goalie Hacks Podcast, the show dedicated to providing elite tips, hacks, and strategies to take your game to the next level, where we help you become an elite goaltender, one hack at a time. And now, here's your host, Mike Santaguida.
Bang, bang, and welcome back to the Goalie Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Santaguida, and thanks again for tuning in. Things are really starting to heat up around here, and the next month is going to be jammed with a ton of good stuff. So, make sure to tune in. Keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears peeled. Shout out to my newest Patreon hacktivist this week, Christian Triani, hailing from Stouffville, Ontario, and Jack Hudek, hailing from Downers Grove, Illinois. These guys have been longtime members of my community, and I couldn't be more excited to welcome them to my inner circle. Thank you for the support, fellas. Also, shout out to my other patrons, Matt Lauren, Joseph Rachapi, and Nick Lepp, for upping their pledges this month. I couldn't be more excited to continue to work with these guys and go a little deeper with their development. If you're interested in becoming a member of my inner circle and catapulting your development, for just a few bucks a month, you can get a shout out on the podcast, an automatic feature on my student guest Instagram live sessions, access to my private group chat, private Zoom Q&A mentorship sessions, video review, 1v1 development, and the list goes on. So either hit me up directly after the show or head to my page at patreon.com/goaliehacks for more details on how to get started. This week on the show, I have the pleasure of being joined by someone who was a beacon of hope throughout my career, just an incredibly long history of being a winner at the next level, and someone that had an enormous impact on my self-belief throughout my career, Jeff Lerg. In this episode, Jeff and I talk about what it takes to be a winner at the next level, from the USHL all the way to college hockey and beyond. This guy's an absolute legend. I love his character, his drive, and his passion for the game, and I couldn't be more excited for you guys to hear this one today. By the way, if you guys haven't seen my YouTube videos, I release a new video every Thursday morning now, and I have close to 30 videos up. So make sure to head to my YouTube channel to subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any new videos. This upcoming weekend, I will be releasing a completely free 14-plus page ebook to my email list only, and it'll discuss a major pillar, what it means and how to use it to your advantage. And it's a staple pillar of mine that's helped me transition to the next level much easier over the last 11 years, trying to move up in the hockey world, just like you guys are doing. So head to my website at goaliehacks.com to sign up for my mailing list to make sure you don't miss this release over the weekend. Shout out to Justin Goldman from the Goalie Guild for inviting me to partner up with him on this amazing global goaltending initiative called the Hackathon. It's a design sprint similar to the pad contests that are going on right now that you guys are doing. However, the goal of the whole project is to give the global goaltending community a voice. You guys, the guys on the front lines, to come up with ideas to help improve either the performance or safety of goaltenders around the world. And we just did a test run with the idea at the Global Goaltending Retreat Justin Goldman puts on for some of the best goalie coaches around the globe annually. And the participation and the results were awesome. Honestly, way better than I think we both expected. So we're really looking forward to ironing out the details before opening this thing up to the entire public, likely, toward the end of the summer. So stay tuned for more details on that. As always, shout out to our main sponsor, NeuroTracker, and man, has it been an amazing experience so far with the group we have going. We have over 20 plus people in the group chat now, and things are starting to heat up and get very competitive, and I just love the vibe, the work ethic everyone is putting in. Everyone is blown away by the impact it's had on their vision. I have people messaging me like, thank you for getting me on this. Thank you for getting me on this. Like, it's crazy, and I couldn't be happier. And they couldn't be happier with the results they're getting, right? If you're interested in getting started or want more details, whether you're a player or coach, young or older, definitely send me a direct message on Instagram today after this episode to get the full details on what exactly we've been doing. And to kick off our sponsorship, we're giving away a free subscription for the new NTX product, not available to the public yet. So stick around to the end of the show to get details on how to enter into the weekly giveaway. Without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. I know you guys are going to love the chat Jeff and I had today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Goalie Hacks Podcast. Today on the show, I have a personal hero of mine and the greatest undersized goalie of our generation, Jeff Lerg. Jeff is incredibly decorated, having had an incredibly successful career as a small guy living in a big goalie's world, being a standout goaltender dating all the way back to minor hockey. Having won league awards in the USHL, league and NCAA tournament awards and championships in college, as well as having played 125 plus ECHL games, one AHL game, and over 125 plus pro games in Europe, playing in some of the top leagues over there and picking up plenty of league accolades during his time overseas. I've looked up to him and his success my entire career. He's always been a beacon of hope for me, and I couldn't be happier to have him on the show today. Jeff, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Doing great. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, it's great. Shout out to Coach Bozak for hooking Jeff and I up. Thank you, brother, for putting us in touch. You guys can find him on Instagram at Bozak_goaltending. But it's awesome to have you on the show. Like I mentioned in the intro, when I was young and growing up, trying to, sort of make my way and carve my own path, I always looked up to you. The success you had at every level and your ability to compete and excel in an era of big goaltenders. Literally, my dad would always say to me, like, if Jeff Lerg can do it, so can you. And I hung on that forever, and it helped me believe in myself. And from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for inspiring me to do great things and giving me the confidence that I could do it as an undersized goaltender and inspiring me to strive for greatness.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. I know growing up, I obviously had the goaltenders I looked up to, and believe it or not, I looked up to the smaller goalies in the NHL. Chris Osgood, Manny Legacy. That was the standard height of goaltenders. So for me, it was just I was a belief in myself that I could play at the highest level in the world because there was goalies not too many inches taller than me doing it. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that my playing days gave you a little inspiration and hope as well.
Yeah, definitely. I saw you retired not long ago, which will make for a perfect episode because you're pretty fresh off playing. But how come you decided to retire finally as of lately?
Well, multiple reasons. Probably the main reason was just a slew of injuries that added up from post college days into my pro days, and the labrum surgery
Mm,
on my right hip was really the TKO to my career.
yeah,
During my playing time in France, I guess it was a few seasons ago now. About midway through the year, I felt some pain there and didn't really get it diagnosed
yeah,
until the end of the year that I was playing on a torn labrum there. So finally had surgery, and it was a long, long recovery. And long story short, I tried to find a spot to play that following year by late January, February, and I thought
mhm,
I was done playing. And then just at the end of that year, a full year post surgery, the Toledo Walleye needed a goalie just for a week to come play their final
yeah,
week of the year. So I got one extra game in with a great organization and finished out playing a home game in front of all my friends and family that drove down from Detroit to Toledo, and then I thought that was a nice way to kind of go out on my own terms. That I was
yeah,
healthy
for
and
sure.
the right way to do it. But that was probably the main reason was injuries and obviously family life and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get into some of that stuff later in the call too. But let's dive right into the show and get rolling. Maybe you can just start off by telling my audience, your brief story on how you became a goalie and the path you took to get to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the Metro Detroit area. It's during my time growing up, hockey rich area with the Red Wings being the team that was striving for their and accomplishing their Stanley Cup goals. So it was a lively hockey area. My dad and my uncle
Hmm.
played. I guess my dad and my two uncles both played all collegiately, and it was just ingrained in us as a youngster. And I was the black sheep that only one of the family that put on the goalie gear and was brave enough to stand in there. So it was just in my hockey culture, and I was the one who kind of took a little different path, putting on the gear, and it was the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to jump right into your rookie season in junior in the USHL with at the time the River City Lancers, and you put up some great numbers as a rookie. By the way, But what do you think was the hardest part about transitioning from midget to the USHL at the time? Like, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you went to play there?
Yeah, I guess I'll preface that by just a little more background on where I played growing up. By the time my Pee Wee travel days came around, I played for the Honey Baked program for 7
Yeah.
consecutive years, or actually, excuse me,
Wow.
8 years in a row. Actually, Pee Wee minor all the way through midget mate. Excuse me, squirt minor through midget mate. All right, had to backtrack, but 8 years of playing consistently for the same, tier one organization,
Yeah.
and that helped me gain a lot of confidence going into the junior level because we were a team that was consistently competing, and winning state championships, competing for national championships. So
Yeah.
my mindset at that point, coming in as a 17-year-old rookie in the USHL, was that I was a winner and that I was always a winner, and my expectations were to win every game I played. Because that was my expectations for 8 years leading into that.
Yeah.
So the transition was tougher with the fact that obviously the caliber of play is extremely high, and the
Hmm.
other aspect of having I had a 20-year-old goalie partner who was previously USHL goaltender of the year, uh,
Wow.
an OHL starter as well. So I was slated as the backup. So there was a little adjustment period there of learning how to sit on the bench and just be prepared when the coach calls your number.
Yeah.
So, outside of the obvious facts of the speed of the game and players being better, just that transition of being on the bench a little bit more and really having to earn every start was
Hmm.
something that I learned, I guess, pretty early in my junior career.
Hmm. And for you, what was something that you did or said to yourself? Because obviously you had to share the net a bit. You weren't really used to it. What do you think sort of helped you through that process of maybe not playing every night?
Well, just I learned that consistency is extremely important, and I always took practices growing up with the Honey Big program pretty serious. I always competed at a very, very high level. I took pride in being the best player on the ice at those practices. There was times I'd let up very limited amount of goals at as a youth growing up in a practice
Yeah.
setting. So I knew I had to keep that same mindset at the junior level and show my coach that I could do it every day. But I think the biggest thing I learned was how to prepare to get myself amped up for every game.
Yeah.
At that level, the coaches kind of let us know, pretty early on, it's a results based business, and I hadn't really heard that before. So I kind of learned different ways to get myself focused and new preparation and things of that nature to kind of get me to realize that every game is a big game, and then obviously had to learn how to be able to repeat that.
Yeah. And obviously you excelled when you transitioned playing 35 plus games and putting up some great numbers. But for other goalies looking to make that transition to juniors in the tier one like USHL, what's a couple things that you focused on when you were young that helped you find your way so early?
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing that can be transition on the broad sense is this: every day, every skate, they're all big. They all matter.
Yeah.
When you're trying to make a good impression on a new coach and a new organization, you never know what part of the day or what part of a skate or a practice or a game that's going to stick in their minds as a positive or a negative. So you
Right.
want to just have that consistent mindset to just bring it every day. And everyone's going to have a bad day where, they're not stopping pucks or they're letting up bad rebounds or things like that. But
Hmm.
you have to have that same mindset and same sort of preparation and same feel for it, deep down mattering to you that you want to work to get better and you want to work to be the best version of yourself every day at practice or a game. So I think that's the biggest thing you can take with you. And then being able to adapt and learn from your mistakes. For me, being a small guy, obviously jumping to a faster, higher level with, high pace players coming from all across the world. I was exposed a bit early, getting beat up high or over challenging. I had to watch some tape and learn from those mistakes and be able to adapt.
Hmm. And what exactly for you when you transitioned? How did your style change? Because you're saying you were a smaller guy, sort of going and you said you got exposed early on. How did you like? What exactly with your style or your game did you change?
Really, the biggest thing was the patience on my feet. Was what I forced myself to work on in practice, not just every drill dropping right away on the puck, and that slowly came into play game after game throughout my rookie season in USHL. So I really worked at being patient on my feet. I do a drill almost at the end of every practice where I'd stand on the goal line and I'd give our best shooter 7 pucks right at the hash mark line, but I couldn't leave the goal line. I had to stand on the goal line and really
Mm.
force myself to react to his stick. And we just made it a best of 7 every day. And I think just doing it time and time again, it forced me to get a little more patient on my feet and then trust that I could react when I had to readjust my depth, because sometimes I just wanted to get too far out and
Yeah.
take away the net, but I had to kind of bring my depth back in and work a lot more on being patient on the reaction.
Yeah. It's funny you say I do something similar at the end of practices too. It's more of a from a conditioning standpoint, but same thing. Every day after practice, have a guy sit below the hash and just sort of rip pucks, and you get used to that the velocity of the shot, right? Trying to be a little more patient, making those little adjustments. So no, that's good, man. I so the following year you had a breakout season playing 55 plus games, including playoffs, and being named USA Hockey Junior Player of the Year, USA USHL Goaltender of the Year, and USHL Player of the Year, which is just incredible. Maybe you could walk us through, what your expectations were going into that season. Did you see yourself winning all those awards, and is that what you were striving to win, all that stuff?
No, to be honest, it was a down feeling at the end of the year because the goal was to win the playoff championship, and we lost in the first
Yeah.
round. We lost in Game 5 of the first round as a best of 5 series, and we were the number 1 seed going in. So all those
Yeah.
terrific awards and obviously a terrific year, and helped me gain a lot of accolades and momentum going into college. And then at the end of the year, feeling down and extremely upset for not accomplishing the ultimate goal, but that obviously
Yeah.
fueled some fire for later in my career. But no, the my expectations were just that though. My expectations were every year were to win, I guess, or to be the top goalie of the year and to win a playoff championship. Those are my 2 goals that I peg myself for every year, and I took it personal if someone was beating me in the wins category, or someone was beating me in the save percentage or goals against category. Not that it's all about numbers,
For
but
sure.
I was always just striving to be the best in every category, because it was ingrained into me that nothing was going to come easy for me in terms of success or
Yeah.
opportunities. Even after that first breakout or good year, rookie year, where I was on the all rookie team in the USHL and second team All Star, I
Mhm.
still didn't have a college commitment until the very end of that summer. But obviously, there are other goalies in the league that didn't win those awards or have a good first year that had commitment. So I had a lot of fuel to the fire there, that I really just wanted to be hands down the best goalie in the league. And obviously, I showed that over the year, but came up short in the championship and playoffs.
Yeah. So what do you think contributed so much to your success that year for you? Where do you think you grew the most from the year before that allowed you to win those awards?
Well, confidence was key. I came off a very good record the previous year as a rookie. I think it was like 24-6 or something along the
Yeah.
lines. I had expectations to win. The culture of the Omaha Lancers at that time, with the long tenured coach Mike Hastings, was to be the best team in the league and to win the playoff championship. So the culture was coming from the head coach down. We would sweep a weekend and come in on a Monday and just get skated for 25, 30 minutes because we didn't play well in the third period of the second game. you know,
Right.
we didn't win. So our expectations were, it's almost like Remember the Titans, to be perfect.
Yeah.
We were grilled that way to have the absolute highest results every single night. So I think that was just our culture, the team, and our coach, and it really helped me be consistent every night and know that every game matters. It doesn't matter if I got a shutout the night before; I got to do it again the next night. So it was great coaching along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the following year you go off to play at Michigan State, and from the looks of it you didn't go in as a true freshman. And maybe you can touch briefly on how difficult that is at the Division 1 level to jump in as a true freshman as a goaltender, and maybe highlight some of the advantages of taking a couple of years to play junior beforehand.
Yeah, the experience is key. I felt extremely comfortable coming in to Michigan State. We just named the awards that I won the previous year, and my,
Yeah.
my winning percentage for 2 years in the USHL was extremely high. So I
Mhm.
was a confident goalie. I was a healthy goalie. I was a driven goalie because I just came up short of winning playoff championships that I was that I was trying to win. I felt I really had to overly prove myself to even earn a college scholarship.
Yeah.
Even with all those awards, it was not a full ride. 4 years paid out of four.
Yeah.
It was 3.5 years paid, which is still very good. But
Yeah.
the coach said, "Well, we can't have two small goalies on a full ride, whatever that means." So I was driven, I was focused, I was confident, I was healthy, and all of that being mature, maybe one more year helped me come in as a freshman and be able to contribute. So I wasn't just a young, unproven junior goaltender trying to prove myself in college. I felt that I had proved myself. And again, my junior coach, Mike Hastings, a good quote that always stuck with me. He said, "If you think you're ready for that next level, don't think you are until you absolutely dominate your current level." So that stuck with
Yeah.
me when I heard that, and I knew I was ready.
Mhm. Yeah. And for guys, I guess looking cuz like you said, you won all those awards and you won them over guys that were committed. And maybe you could just touch on a bit in terms of like what it takes to really prove to people, whether even if you're a tall guy, right, that you're capable and ready to transition at that level. And you could dive deeper into that quote that you just said a bit.
Yeah, you have to feel it internally. You have to have that same type of feeling. The feeling that I had coming from midget hockey to junior hockey was that I was ready to make the jump. I
Yeah.
proved myself day in and day out. I wasn't kidding myself, saying that I was the best player on the ice, but then really pucks are flying by me every day in practice.
Yeah.
So, it's just you have that feel where you know that you've done everything the right way. You feel comfortable at that level, that you can still be pushed beyond your limits at the next level. So it's an internal feeling, and I felt that same feeling at those two steps. And and I knew I was ready for college. I knew it was going to be a very tough situation. My goalie partner that year was an All-American as a
Yeah.
sophomore. He was a sophomore, or he was a junior as I was a freshman, so he'd just been an All-American the year before. So obviously, I knew what I was getting into. It wasn't like the keys were just handed to me when I arrived on campus.
Yeah. Well, you had an awesome opportunity to play a significant amount of games, and you put up some absolutely lights out numbers your freshman year, and you end up being named the CCHA All Rookie Team and being named the League Rookie of the Year and Playoff Tournament MVP for the playoffs. Awesome stuff. Like you just alluded to, what was probably the most difficult part for you transitioning from junior to college, even though you felt so ready, right? Like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced that you didn't anticipate before you went to school?
Yeah, it is a different culture than juniors. Juniors is all about the hockey life. I was taking a few community college classes my second year of juniors, and I was in high school my first year of juniors. So there was a little bit of schooling aspect, but it's really like you're on a professional team where it's really all about the hockey. And then you go to NCAA Division One school where the school workload is much heavier, and your expectations are to be successful in that and go to a class until 2:30, but then you got to be at the rink and on the ice sometimes by 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I was just balancing all that was a little bit of an adjustment period for sure, and learning how to compartmentalize everything, and go to a class on a Friday morning, but then prepare for an away game on a Friday night when you're riding
Yeah.
the game. So little things like that you just kind of get in the groove of over time, and then again, I was sitting on the bench to start my college career a little bit. He would play 2 games, I'd play one. He'd play 3 games, I'd play one. So it's kind of that same aspect of proving yourself, just like I had to do at the junior level.
Yeah. And for you, what do you think looking back was sort of I guess the most significant thing that you did or whatever it was to prove to your coaches that you were capable of being a starter that season?
Well, the biggest thing I did is I made a great first impression. Not that that always is the winning recipe, but my first impression was that I could play and beat any team in the country. My first college start was on the road at Cornell, who at that time was a powerhouse and ranked number 2 in the country. They were a very, very high powered team and a very defensive team. And I went in there as a freshman. We had lost the previous night, Friday night, with the other goalie playing. So I got my chance on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I came in and, really had a terrific first game. So I obviously put that in the mind that I could play at this level and win
Yeah.
games, because obviously that's what matters. And then I did actually have a little bit of a lull in play in terms of the winning category, from that point up through Christmas of that year. But then when I got another opportunity to get on a roll, I took advantage of that opportunity at around the Christmas mark of that year, and then I really took over from there.
Yeah. And if you could go back and change one thing or do anything different or tell yourself anything that would have helped you at the time, what would that be?
Well, again, I think it's that you never know when the coaches or the people making the decisions are watching you and are making their playing decisions. You always have to bring your A game no matter
Yeah.
when it is. Whether it's the last place team in the league, your game's going to be critiqued. Whether it's the first place team in the league, you're
Mm,
always going to look for, if they have to make a decision, you have to make it an easy decision for them, and find ways to be your best every single night. And I learned
yeah.
that where, I was playing well my freshman year, but I wasn't, lights out that first half of my freshman year until I found my groove and I really gained that internal confidence, and I went on a roll. But no, it's just that same, it's a learning curve. You have to learn how to adapt. It was the same curve I had to get better at in juniors, maybe being too aggressive, maybe learning how to be more patient. I had to force
Yeah.
myself to get better than I did along the way, and it showed in the long haul.
Yeah. And then your sophomore season, you played almost every game it looks like, and you had some incredible numbers. And that year, you guys go on to win the national championship in Division One hockey, and you're named to the All Tournament NCAA championship team. So congratulations on that. Maybe take us through how the year went. Your expectations obviously were to win, and I'm sure to win the goalie of the year. But what did you focus on mostly, like throughout the season, day to day, that prepare you to win it all eventually and bring home the big prize? Like what do you think was a major underlying factor that contributed to your success that year?
Well, I think, to backtrack, for our freshman year in college, we made it to the Elite Eight. We won our first NCAA tournament game. We lost the next game that would have gotten us to the Frozen Four. So there
Mm,
was some hunger there that we were kind of close to making that Frozen Four. So that was our goal, our team goal, our internal goals. We know we were one game away from making that Frozen Four. And obviously, when you get there, you never know what can happen. So I
yeah,
had that, ingrained as the long term goal of the year. I actually started out a little bit slower in terms of numbers, and then really heated up probably around November of that year and got going. But
mm,
really, it was just the day to day was, again, the expectations were high. We just came off winning the league championship in the playoffs the previous year. We probably
yeah,
had a target on our back a bit, that Michigan State was back and we were competing at a high level and nationally
mm,
ranked throughout the whole year. But it was just, again, learning how to handle that target on our back all year from having a really good freshman year, because previously Michigan State was kind of an up and down program for 4 or 5 years prior to my freshman year. And then we were kind of proven to be back a bit. So just a good learning, a lot of lessons still to be learned along the way with all the experience. And then we really just peaked at the right time. We weren't perfect all year by any means.
yeah,
We just kind of found our groove right at NCAA tournament time. We didn't repeat as league playoff champions or anything like that. So we had a very, very good tight knit group of players. That was probably the reason that we won it, was that we were great teammates and great camaraderie. We enjoyed coming to the
yeah,
rink every day, and it was just fun to be part of that group, which is what the perfect storm as a hockey player, a great group of guys in a championship.
yeah. And going into those NCAA tournament games your first 2 years, it's literally just a one and done style tournament where the winner advances. I had an opportunity to play in one game, we didn't win. But how do you prepare for every game to get yourself ready to thrive in the moment and sort of eliminate distractions?
Yeah, what I really, looking back in my career, I never would think about it when I was playing, but looking back in those one and done type of games, that was the time that I really thrived. And,
Yeah,
more times than not, brought my A game. Um, it's just all about having the calm nerves. I think growing up playing in big games as a youth really helped me. As a peewee, we
yeah,
we won the Quebec Major Junior Tournament, and I had to play big games at that level in front of 20,000 fans. So I think I was, just through
wow,
experience, gained gain that cold-blooded, not nervous mentality, just go out and play at my peak. And I kind of just went through my same routines and did everything top notch in terms of visualization and all my racquetball drills and everything of that nature. But I enjoyed the moment and I loved the pressure. I guess that was a good way to put it. I love it when the game was on the line. I had internal confidence that I could make the big play at the right time, and obviously
Yeah.
in that tournament I did. Didn't always happen, but in that tournament I was able to show my best stuff.
Yeah. And for some kids that might not have that same background, that elite background of playing in big games, playing in big championships, what's maybe some advice you can give to them to help put them in the zone or eliminate distractions or just focusing on stopping that next puck when they play?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the preparation leading up to it, knowing that you've done everything in your power to be ready for it. Because you're not always going to be growing up with having big games underneath you. So you want to do everything you can to prepare for that moment, to know that you controlled everything that you can possibly control. And then when the times get a little bit anxious or nervous, I always would just shut my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and then focus on making that next save. And then again,
Mm,
refocus on making that next save, and just really break it down into small segments when you're in the game. And then obviously just enjoy the moment while doing it.
yeah. And then when you were playing in the national championship game, maybe take us through how you were feeling leading up to the game and then game day and obviously you touched on some things on how you eliminate distractions. But this is probably arguably the biggest game of your career, right? So what were some things that you did leading up to it and during the game to manage the pressure and the stress?
Yeah, it was the biggest game of my career at that point. I had goals as a youth to win an NCAA college national championship. So there was a deep background there growing up in Metro Detroit, a very hockey hotbed even for the college level with Michigan and Michigan State here and college games on TV all the time. So I had this goal as a youngster, and I remember more that day than any other time in my playing day,
Mm,
feeling emotional during the day, almost as if I was going to cry because I was so excited about the opportunity.
yeah.
When I walked down when I came down the elevator into the hotel lobby, to get on the bus to go to the rink, I was the first one down there because I always kind of walk outside for a few minutes before getting on the bus.
Yeah.
And there was a pep rally going on in the lobby, and it was just a slew of emotions. I couldn't even look up because I couldn't even. I just needed to get to the rink and play because I was just
Yeah.
so excited that couldn't believe that I had this opportunity to accomplish my goal. So at that point, I really had to get to the rink and get refocused and take a couple deep breaths and just concentrate on what I can control. And then obviously I settled in for game time.
Yeah. And then during the game, was there like points during the game where you felt your emotions getting a little out of control where you had to sort of keep them in line?
Yeah, at the start of the game, and I remember this just from brief memory of it. Just I remember I was fighting the puck a little bit at the start of the game, giving up some rebounds I normally wouldn't give up. Was just a little bit anxious, wanted to do too much, and then eventually, most goalies kind of feel it whenever they make a kind of a comfortable save or a good save, or they really control the puck. They kind of settle into the game, and I think that's what happened in that particular game too. You gotta kind of refocus on every shot, kind of get that feel of that puck where you really control it, and it kind of calms you down a little bit.
Yeah. Was there anything that you were sort of saying to yourself or that you did to, like you sort of had that self-awareness like, hey, I'm fighting the puck. Like how did you bring it back to, you know, I guess equilibrium is the right term. So that way you could sort of get rid of the nerves and play. Was there anything that you said to yourself throughout the process?
Yeah, I definitely kind of communicate with myself, and at that point, and for most of my career, I always just concentrate on the 5 minute segments. So, I
Mm,
remember early in the first 5 minutes, I was a little bit anxious and maybe shaky a little bit, and I remember just thinking, okay, next 5 minutes, just focus on getting set early and
yeah.
controlling the puck, watching all the way in. Just little things like that, reminding myself and just get through another 5 minute segment and being aware and keen on what you're doing and how you're doing, and then eventually you'll stop having to remind yourself all the time of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure eventually as the game goes on, you get into the flow. But I know a lot of people, and even me. I've played in some big games. You get anxious, and then you sort of have that self talk, and you sort of break up the game a little bit. And eventually, obviously, as it gets underway, you get in the swing of things, right?
Yep, exactly.
Um, but the following season, you're named the assistant captain in your junior year,
and you go on to win several awards like League First All-Star Team, Second All-American Team West, and we're a Hobie Baker finalist for the Top Collegiate Player of the Year. Maybe take us through what you think it takes to even be considered for some of those awards, and the type of work that you put in day in and day out to be considered among the finalists. Was there anything specifically or certain areas you grew from the 2 years prior that allow you to grow into somebody worth being considered for those awards?
Yeah, it's the confidence, the experience that I had gained through 2 years. 2 championships in those 2 years, a league playoff championship as a freshman, and then NCAA championship as a sophomore. So I think
Mhm.
I had no reason but to not be confident and to not have high expectations for myself. And also my junior year, that was the best team we had. If there was a year we probably should have won, it was probably that team. It was probably our most
Yeah.
complete team, but most players were probably in the same boat as me, feeling extremely confident coming off a championship the year before. So everyone was playing at a very high level that year.
Mhm.
We were a well-oiled machine as a team, and competed and almost made it back to the Frozen Four again to compete for the championship. So we were a great team. That was a big part of it. I think those awards were kind of just a culmination of the first 3 years all into one, where we were a
Yeah.
great team. We won big games. We had high expectations. Our practices were good. We all were comfortable in that setting. So it was just kind of a perfect storm. And then those bigger awards kind of came along the way as a combination of those.
Yeah. And throughout the season, like during practice or off ice, what was something that you did on a consistent day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis that allowed you to compete at that level every day?
I was consistent. I did the same drills on a Monday after practice, and the next week the same drills on a Tuesday after practice, and so on and so forth. If we didn't play till Friday, Saturday, so my consistency was there. I think my habits were extremely disciplined, and knowing on for example on Mondays if we had a team workout, we would lift heavier on that day, and then a Tuesday I'd
Yeah.
concentrate on the bike sprints after practice and always did those. And on Thursdays I'd always have a real good stretch after practice and get my flexibility ready to go for the weekend. So I was
Yeah.
just consistent in my approach and enjoyed really coming to the rink. I didn't overthink it when I was there. I wasn't overly stressed about, oh, my glove position here, this or that.
Yeah.
I just loved coming to the rink and loved playing, and it was a fun group to be around. I had the things that I did to kind of keep me going and keep pushing myself to kind of re-prepare every weekend, which I think was key. I got re-prepared every weekend to prepare to sweep, prepare to get 2 wins,
Yeah.
and then over the long haul that showed. But I really just was super and hyper focused on my next task at hand.
Yeah, and would you contribute? I think a lot of your consistency over the air was something, I and on previous podcasts, a lot of winning goaltenders, they have these what I would refer to as systems, right? And routines that you're sort of doing, things that you're leaning on when things aren't going good or when they are, and you sort of lean on these systems. So for you, were these routines that you developed something that you did right from minor hockey, junior hockey that led into college, or would you say from a year to year basis things changed a bit, but that's sort of what helped you be consistent so often was that week to week you were sort of found the things that worked and were doing the same things?
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct, and that's why by my third year of college, I had the system in place. It was could do it with my eyes shut. I knew exactly what to do, when to do it, how I felt. I felt confident, obviously going into every weekend. So at that point, I was already 3 years into it and got kind of all the kinks out. So you're right on that. That you got to have something that you fall back on because it's not always going to be easy times. You're going to have your downs during the year, but you have to keep your approach consistent, and that'll kind of keep that internal confidence going that you can bounce back and get back to your peak.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in your senior season, you're named the captain of the team, which I think speaks, volumes of your character and leadership skills between the pipes. You're named an All American and to the second All Star team in your league, as well as winning the humanitarian award for your league. Maybe we can shift a bit and talk about your leadership style and the type of culture you tried to foster and promote as the leader of the squad your senior year.
Yeah, I mean, I was a leader by example. As a goalie too, you can't I guess some goalies are vocal, but I was hyper focused on my game and my
Yeah.
practices. So I would, if there was something that needed to be said, I would obviously say it. I wasn't the rah rah type of guy all the time, but when I needed to, I would be. But just lead by examples, do things the right way, and the pack will follow. And I think up to that point, my track record was speaking for itself. That there was
Yeah.
respect from the room that I could be the captain. And also the background on that was that we had such a great team for those 3 years. After my junior year, I think three guys signed early and four key players graduated. So there's a
Wow.
little bit of a void there on who was left,
Yeah.
and I was left. So it was a little bit of that was part of it as well.
Yeah. And for goalies looking to grow their leadership skills and become a better leader for their teams, what's some advice you can give them in terms of what to do both on and off the ice to get your teammates to follow your lead and sort of bring a team, closer toward winning a championship? You said that you're more of a lead by example guy. But for some guys, I see it often where people fall into this trap of being negative on the ice or yelling at their teammates or there's just poor leadership stuff, and for some people looking to improve, what's some advice you can give for them?
Well, I think the first thing is understanding that not everyone is the same. Not everyone on that team was the same as me. There was many different personalities. I had to learn that a little bit. Not everyone was going to
Yeah.
be as hyper focused on re-preparing every weekend and doing the same thing every week at the same time. So just learning that you have to learn how to balance and manage a lot of different personalities um, was one key aspect of the leadership. But also, and then the other thing is if you're gonna you know, have this verbal and talk the talk, you better go out and walk the walk. If you say you're the
Yeah.
hardest working person, you better be the hardest working person. You better be someone that the young guys can look up to and say, yes, he does it the right way every time. So, that's why I didn't need to be overly verbal because I let my actions speak for themselves. And then when something needed to be relayed to the team, it was an easy sell to get that message across. So I think just kind of managing many different personalities on the team is tough, and you have to understand that not everyone's going to be have the same reaction.
Yeah. Do you think that, obviously from your experience, and I'm on board with you, do you think that being a more nonverbal leader leading by action is much more effective than somebody being in the room who's not necessarily who's bossing everybody around and trying to tell people what to do when they're not doing their own job?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. As a leader, you have to be someone that people can look up to. We had a few different captains, during my time at Michigan State, and the one we won the championship with. He was a senior at the time that I was a sophomore. He was the captain. He was a fourth liner. In the national championship game, he probably had four shifts, but he was by far the best captain I ever had because he was very selfless. He was all about the team. He didn't care what he could do to contribute. He would do it. So in my eyes, he was the best captain I ever had. He would be the one firing up the team, no matter how many minutes he played on the ice. He was the guy that was kind of the rah rah type guy and would get everyone to find
Yeah.
their highest level. So there's different ways to lead, and mine was obviously going to be a different way to lead than that. But
Yeah.
there's something I learned that he was just being selfless and all about the team is a very important aspect.
Yeah. Now you finally go pro in 09-10 after your senior year, and it looks like you ran into some injury trouble not playing much that first year pro, and we talked about it briefly before this call. Maybe you can just detail to us, what happened and what were you thinking at the time and how you eventually overcame that challenge and went on to have a very successful pro career.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we just talked about 5 years of really high success rate with 2 years of juniors and 3 years of college, and I was flying high and just really could do no wrong. And, I just felt like I was primed to go repeat those two processes and go prove
Yeah.
myself at the pro level. That was my intention going into my senior year. Then after my senior year, was to move on and go pro. So about 2 weeks left in my college career, I not knowingly I tore my ACL in a little optional skate. We're supposed to take
No
a day
way.
off, and I went out and took some shots at some breakaways. felt a very bad pain in my knee, kind of hobbled the rest of the day. And, long story short, I played my final 3 games in a torn ACL until it was
Ouch.
diagnosed after the year. Yeah. So it was a very
It's crazy.
tough ending to a, very fun college career. So, fast forward that, obviously prior to that, not getting any NHL contracted looks, all minor league talks, even after all the success we just spoke about. So
Yeah.
I signed a minor league deal, with New Jersey, them knowing that I had ACL surgery and was recovering. And then 4 days prior to me leaving for the Devils training camp at the NHL level, I was skating at home in Detroit here, and I tore my other ACL. So right away,
No way.
yeah, it was awful. So right away
Oh,
when I slid into the post on that knee, Chris Osgood was the other goalie in the ice with me, and I looked at him. I said, "Yep, I just tore my other ACL," and his mouth about fell open. So I just said, "I'm driving to East Lansing, going to see my trainer." And he
Jesus.
obviously we got the results. So that was my first year pro. 2 ACL surgeries. I sat at home until February. I went to the ECHL level for New Jersey, but I was not activated on the roster when I got there. They already had 2 goalies, obviously playing. They were kind of, I guess, brushing me off a little bit, just trying to let the
Yeah.
season play out. And then once they were finally eliminated from playoffs, I played 2 out of the last 3 meaningless games of the year from their standpoint because they just got knocked out of playoffs. So then I played 2 games, and the off season came around again. So it was a tough first year, definitely, to get to grasp my mind around, obviously after everything we just spoke about, which not I was very fortunate looking back to be healthy and be able to do everything I just did during those years. So, it's just part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then going into, so once you got the surgery, you just how did you eventually overcome those challenges and go on to have such a successful career and put that behind you?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough because, then the following year, the injuries weren't done at that point. The following year, I broke my thumb, from a shot on the thumb sometime, I guess, first week of December. So then I missed 35 games or so of that year as well.
Wow.
And then the following year, I went to Italy and I tore my groin about halfway through the year. So I had about 4 straight years of injuries. And then I finally found myself healthy again and just really got to enjoy the game and just try to take every opportunity I could to keep playing the game I loved. And eventually
Yeah.
it all came full circle. So it was tough to get over those injuries because they kept stockpiling up. And
Yeah.
it
Wow.
wasn't depressing. It was just disheartening that
Yeah.
all these expectations, and I was so gung ho on, stuffing it in all the NHL pro scouts' face that you guys were wrong. You guys were wrong about me. I just did everything I could possibly do as an NCAA Division I athlete, and had
Yeah.
no offers. So my only goal was to go show that I could prove it at the pro level. So
Yeah.
that's why if people look at my career in terms of where I played, I came back to the ECHL level at 27 years old to come and prove myself because I'd battled 4 years of injuries and finally had found myself to be healthy by about 27.
Yeah. And for others going through injury trouble, that's crazy. I didn't even know that about you. But I think we all know as athletes and I've gone through some pretty tough injuries. The same thing toward the tail end of college, and it's pretty heartbreaking and it can be depressing. When we get the thing we love taken most away from us, and when you have these high expectations, like you said, of proving everybody wrong. But what's some advice you have to guys trying to battle through injuries and get back into it?
Yeah, you have to listen to your body, and obviously listen to the doctors. But I think the biggest thing is you can't rush back, and
Yeah.
it's the worst thing to hear, and it's the best thing to do. Is you can't rush back. It's I came back my ACL surgery before I tore my second one. It was probably 6.5 months post surgery, and I was already trying to go to NHL training camp. With
Yeah.
obviously a pretty quick turnover. As I've matured and grown up and talked to more doctors, I start to hear all these studies of, well, the percentage of increase in probability of tearing the other one is extremely high if you rush back the first one. So
Yeah.
obviously I didn't know that at the time. So the biggest thing is you can't rush back. You want to be overly sure and confident that you're not thinking about the injury. When I came back from a broken thumb, same thing. I tried to come back a little bit. I was pushing the envelope because I wanted to play. The season was slipping away, and I had to wear a thumb brace on, once they finally cleared, and that was uncomfortable as could be. So it affected some of my performance as well. So whenever I tried to rush back or do things that my body probably wasn't telling me to do, I paid in the long run. There's going to be those nights though where you can dig in on if you're sick or um, situations that way. But for the most part, you have to listen to your body. And on injuries, you have to make sure that they're fully healed so you can be confident when playing.
Yeah. Do you think it's better to maybe, like you say, you don't want to rush back, right? So do you think it's better to maybe wait and be ready to play? Because you don't want to come back. I think and I was like this too. I was like, I gotta get back. I gotta get back. But do you think it's better to wait until you're ready to play your game rather than rush it back and try to play like mediocre, not up to your full potential?
Yeah, I think it's a gray area. It's a tough situation to call because, there's going
Yeah.
to be some times where you could mentally just, willpower yourself into a terrific performance and it might feel like you're back. And, I did just that when I tore my groin playing in Italy halfway through the game or halfway through the season. I tore my groin and they gave me cortisone shots, which I didn't know were cortisone at the time, but that's not.
Yeah.
So I came back, and when I first kind of came back, I was willing myself to victory some of the nights by just doing enough to win games. But over the long haul, that can't happen. I kind of wore off, and my play deteriorated because my body was not healed at all.
Yeah.
So there's going to be for the short term, you might be able to dig in on a game 7 of a finals. But over the long haul, if you're getting injured halfway through the year, you're trying to finish a year on a major injury, it's not going to be a good outcome in the end.
Hmm. Now you finally get over some of that stuff, and it sounds like it plagued you a bit. But you battle your way back into it and put up some great numbers and play plenty of games. What was probably the biggest surprise for you when you went pro, where you found you had a hardest time transitioning? Was it the speed, the quality of players, the quality of chances, the volume of quality of chances? What would you say that was?
Yeah, the last aspect is key. The volume of quality chances is definitely bigger than in college. The patience of the players is was an adjustment. In college, it's a really fast game where it's just go go go, dump it in, hit it as hard as you can. Players finishing checks all over, buzzing around 1,000 miles an hour. And in pro, there's a
Yeah.
lot more patience to it. Um, some savvy veterans that have played the game for a while know how to, I guess, be patient against more aggressive goalies like me. So there was definitely some learning points along the way. I didn't by any means go completely dominate the ECHL when I first came out of college. Obviously, for many reasons, I wasn't in a
Yeah.
groove. I wasn't in a groove by any means, and I was still trying to find my way a bit with making those adjustments. So it's definitely a high level of play. It's a higher level of play than NCAA Division One, and I found that out by learning the hard way at times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing when I went pro too is the exact same thing. Is college is very structured. You're only seeing like 4 or 5 scoring chances a game, and then in minor pro, you're getting like 10 to 15.
Yeah, and then if you give up 3 goals, the coach wants to strangle you. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe for younger kids, that want to one day may like play pro hockey. What's maybe something that they can work on, where they're at today that will transition well to pro hockey when they finally get there.
Well, the patience is the key. The one thing that I had to work hard on was just players cutting laterally in the zone, just being able to maintain your edges and work on your skating that way. There's
Yeah,
a lot of movement, just with players cutting laterally, making plays laterally. It's not always just a quick slide over like I used to do all the time in college.
yeah,
There's a lot more patience to it where players will delay, they'll look to the late guy a lot more. So it's really just being aware of the situations that you unfortunately kind of have to learn through experience and and knowing that it's not always just a shot option for a player. There's a lot of savvy players that have played many years of hockey that aren't just going to come in and beat it in your pads all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you go on to play almost 10 more years of pro hockey, and you ended up spending plenty of time in plenty of top leagues all around Europe as well as ECHL. But why did you decide to make that jump overseas, and how were your experiences over there? I saw you went back and forth a few times.
Yeah, I did. I went back and forth a few times. I was always searching for that next level, that highest level, and unfortunately, I
Yeah.
was never awarded that opportunity at the European next level or at the North American next level. I was always trying to find that where is my next place I can go prove myself and show
Yeah.
that I can play at that AHL in North America or the top German league or top Finnish league. I was always wanted to go prove myself. And obviously, at those levels, you're making a living now. Those are the higher paid levels.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm coming off a college career. I graduated at 23 years old. Most people are getting their first jobs at that point. I'm still battling through the minors at 25, 26, 27, all the way through into my 30s. I was
Yeah.
searching for that next opportunity to prove myself, and obviously financially as well. Getting into married life and family life. So I was always looking for that opportunity to show. I loved the experiences everywhere. They're all there's some bad experiences in there, but for the most part, very, very fun 10 years post college, exploring the
Yeah.
world, seeing different uh, countries, seeing different rinks, seeing how different areas of the world treat hockey. So I learned a lot about the game during that time.
Yeah. And I'm just curious what you think, now having played pro for almost 10 years, before retiring, having been through the systems, been through the grind, if you could go back and change one thing, what would that be? Either mentally or physically, to give you a better chance of succeeding and possibly playing in the NHL and getting to that next level.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that you're not going to be able to control the people in charge, the management, the coaches. There's a lot more politics at play. You just have to go out and play at your level. And the success, being successful is winning games. At the professional level,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's winning games. It's not about, hey, we're here to develop you. It's about, if you go to a European team and you look bad in training camp for a month, they're just going to cut you. It's about at that pro level. As much as youth development is not all about winning, at the pro level, it's about winning. It doesn't matter if you have
Yeah.
a 93% save percentage. If you're 5 games under 500, the management and coach aren't going to be happy. They're going to pinpoint some reason that you couldn't win. So
Yeah.
it's a mental grind for sure, because even though you think you're doing enough at times, sometimes in the coaches and management mind, it's not enough. So you have to keep digging in. You have to keep setting internal goals. For me, from my aspect, I have no complaints and nothing that I look back on and say I didn't do everything I possibly could
Yeah.
to give myself
Yeah.
a chance to play. I felt I reached my peak at the levels I played at. I felt I proved that I earned an opportunity to get that chance. But that's where I can retire and be done playing with great gratitude and appreciation that I left it all out there and did what I could,
Yeah.
and I can sleep at night.
Yeah. And I think that's something to note too, right? Like sometimes you're not always given the opportunity, even though you've sort of earned it, right?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, and you mentioned in my intro that I played a half a game in the AHL, and that's it. You mentioned all the things I did in college. I never had an AHL start, even after 5 tremendous years of 2 in the
Yeah.
USHL and those first 3 years of college. Never had an AHL start. The one game I played in the AHL, I was 28 years old, maybe 29 years old, playing in Toledo in the ECHL. I got called up to play for San Diego Gulls, the Anaheim's team.
Yeah.
We played in Indianapolis the night before. I flew across the country that day. Midway through the game, that goalie got pulled, and obviously I had no sleep. I was kind of, not feeling
Wow.
great physically, mentally. I went in and let up no goals, 13 shots, 13 saves. That was my one AHL appearance.
Wow.
The next night,
Incredible.
yeah. So I was extremely happy, like that I just proved it. I remember thinking to myself, if it doesn't go well, it proves them right. if it does, then it just proves me right again. So
Yeah.
I did what I could. The next night, the next morning, the captains went in the coach's room and said, "Hey, we got to give this guy a chance." I actually knew a couple of the players, and they told me, they
Wow.
went in there and said, "Hey, give this guy a game. Look what he's done." And unfortunately, management pulled rank. So
Really?
yeah, so I didn't end up playing, and I was back 2 days later to Toledo.
Why do you think that was? Did they ever talk to you about it?
No, no, no. They don't. They're not going to talk to you. No. Yeah,
Well, yeah, the NHL management, they keep it hush hush,
yeah.
and that's it.
You're just
You're in and you're out, right?
you're just a chess piece, and they'll move you around. So a couple days later, I was shipped out back to Toledo. So yeah, though that was my one AHL story. But that's just to show that I can. The reason I can sleep at night because my one opportunity
Yeah.
through all that, wasn't an ideal situation by any means to play in that game, and my internal confidence rose to the top, and I was able to do it. So I was proud of that. That night
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, good for you, man. That's honestly a great story to go over because, I think it's there's a lot of kids out there that probably aren't getting those results that think they deserve more, and I think that everybody needs to show a little humility, look in the mirror and be like, "Hey, did I leave my best foot forward?" And it really sounds like you did, and it sounds like you can sleep at night knowing that you left it all out there, having no regrets, and I think that's ultimately when we play, no matter what happens throughout our careers, we want to control what we can control, and we want to make sure we leave it all out on the ice, right? But everyone likes to make it seem all pretty, and obviously we've talked about a bit of the dark side of pro hockey. And we all have down days too, and down years, down moments in our career, slumps, as people will call them. What are some things that you did when you were in a slump to get out of it, either weeks, months, years, whatever it may be?
Well, I would always go back to the well with my drills that always made me feel good. In practice, after practice, I'd take some extra time. Um, Sometimes I'd search for different, highlight videos to watch before taking a nap on a game day, things like that. Tim Thomas diving all over things that get me kind of fired up for the night. So I kind of just tweak some of my preparations, but I would always go back to the well with my favorite drills, post practice or before practice that made me feel confident again, and just tried to work through it that way. And then eventually you get to that point where you're not thinking about it anymore. Sometimes all
Yeah,
it takes is one big save and just erases a time of bad play. So really, it's just searching to get that flow back in your game, and tweaking a few things here and there, but keeping that confidence internally, even though it's very tough. Because if you start to
yeah,
feel you're not confident, it'll definitely affect the people around you.
yeah. What were some of those drills that you were doing either before or after practice?
I love the backdoor drills. So it sounds crazy for a goalie to say, he took time doing backdoor drills and quickness and recovery drills. But I figure, if I can be making these type of saves all the
Yeah,
time, I can make any save. So obviously there are some standard goalie drills with rebound control and recovery, but I'd always challenge myself on backdoor type split saves and things like that to make myself feel like I can do anything again.
yeah. I love that you just said that because we gotta. It's like when guys go into slumps, it's like they let off the gas a bit and they make it easy on themselves. When really, the game gets fun and we get into it more when we're probably making saves we shouldn't, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the perfect recipe. I mean, there was obviously times I was, you have to be realistic and have some good times of good control stuff where you're feeling good.
Yeah,
You're right though, you can't take your foot off the gas. You got to keep digging in, and like I said, that was my mentality. If I can make this backdoor split save on one side, then all of a sudden push to the other side and make another split save, then push again for a breakaway or something like that. I should be able to do
yeah.
anything when the game comes.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. It's when I'm in a slump, I sort of turn up the difficulty a bit, same thing, and then everything, all the routine stuff just gets a little bit slower, I guess, right? Um, Maybe finally we can touch briefly on
Yeah,
on
exactly.
size.
You got to push the envelope a
Um,
little bit.
Maybe we can touch briefly on size because obviously you and I are a little undersized according to NHL standards. But for kids out there who think they're too small to play, how much do you believe size matters over your years playing and even seeing some other big goalies that you've played against?
Well, it's definitely, the game's definitely changed. I watched it change before my eyes. from me growing up watching Chris Osgood and Manny Legacy, hoist Stanley Cups over their head in Detroit to, during my time when, talking with goalie coaches and scouts during my time, having them kind of pull me aside later on in my years and saying, hey, I'm told not to scout any goalie under 6'2". I tried to talk to
Yeah.
management about you, but there was no chance. So the times have definitely changed just for the top level with the NHL, and it's trickled down to every level. That's how businesses work a lot of times. It's just going to be the trickle down effect. But do I think it matters? No, because I'm the one that lived my life doing it. And
Yeah.
so is there an element of it that does matter to some level? Yes, of course. If you're bigger, you have to move less, you cover more net. That's a no-brainer. But in terms of the overall package of being a good goalie, there's some elements that help you on size, but a small goalie that can be, you know, super quick, super reactive, super flexible, high compete level, control the game as much as possible, learn how to read the play, just almost perfect in every aspect of the game, they can play. UC Saros is the example in the NHL.
Yeah.
He's the small goalie that was an absolute stud growing up, World Junior Championships. If you watch him play, he does almost everything perfectly, and he can play. So is it possible? Yes. Is it extremely hard? Yes.
Yeah. It comes down to sort of just stopping pucks and winning games and being able to do your job better than the competition, right?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the end result is the smaller goalies will have a harder time doing it, but it's not to say
Yeah.
you can't do it. I have to
Yeah.
work much harder than Ben Bishop to cover the same size net, but
Yeah.
he's one of the goalies I grew up playing against for all my years and all my life, and
Yeah.
I never felt outmanned playing against him. I just knew what I had to do, and that was my job. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. Jeff, do you have any last words of advice for everyone listening that you feel passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, two things. Just one thing is set your goals every year and then set your goals for each game individually. So you want to have your long-term goals you're reaching towards, and then your short-term goals, your daily goals that help you accomplish those long-term goals in the end.
Yeah.
If you take care of the small goals, the big picture will take care of itself. So I think that's an important guideline to follow as you're trying to uh, find your absolute peak as a goaltender and as an athlete.
Hmm.
Is just keep taking care of those small goals, and you can't let the outside distractions get in your way. Even though as you keep climbing and get into the junior college and pro ranks, there's many things that can pull you off your game. But those two things is just be hyper focused on what you're trying to accomplish, and don't be scared to be different. I'm
Yeah.
different. I'm a different type of goalie. I'm not the norm to the NHL standards and pro standards, but I wasn't afraid to be who I was as a goalie, and I embraced it, and I enjoyed kind of being that, I guess black sheep of the pro ranks. By the time I was, 30 years old in the ECHL, there was no one looking like me out there. So.
No, for sure. You got to sort of mold your identity and play to that. And that actually is what separates you in a crowded world, right?
Yeah, exactly. I loved it. I loved being that guy, that small 5'6" goalie who just beat the NHL draft pick signee who's 6'4". I took pride in it.
Yeah, there's no better thrill than that, right? When you're sort of upsetting the system in politics, right?
Yeah, I loved it. That's why I took pride in the winning, just to win games and force them to play catch up with you, not the other way around.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you for coming on the show, buddy. It was an honor to have you on today. And I know that people, for the people listening to your story, and even for both tall and short goalies, your playing career was just incredibly inspiring. And it really goes to show you that you should never put a cap on your own potential, and that if we dig deep enough and find ways to figure it out, find ways to win, find ways to play to our identity, mold our own identity, that there's really no telling how far anyone can go. So can you just let my community know where they can find you online and get in touch with you?
Yeah, the one goalie school that I own the U.S. side of Future Pro Goalie School. It's a Canadian company. I own the U.S. side, futurepro.com.
Hmm.
I really just use that as my one platform. I'm on Twitter at jlerg1. I don't often use that to communicate, but people often give shout outs on that. And then, from that Future Pro website, you'll be able to get my email sent over to me. If anyone's looking to reach out directly, you can just contact the company email. It'll get sent over to me there. But generally, you're not going to find any of my stuff being highlighted all over online from me as the source. I'm pretty private on a lot of that stuff, but I take a lot of pride in my coaching of goaltenders, and
Yeah.
I do it through a, I guess behind the scenes type platform.
Yeah. Yeah. So go check out Jeff Lerg. All the links will be available in the show notes. And he's one of the greatest goaltenders, if not the greatest goaltender to ever come out of Michigan State and Division I hockey. His career is just incredibly inspiring. And the number of accolades, league awards, and championships he's won over the years speak for themselves. Maybe somewhere down the road, we'll have you back on the show, man, if that's something that interests you.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love coming on to talk hockey, talk goaltending. It's my passion, so no problem at all.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for coming on. You take care, and we'll chat soon, man.
Awesome. Yeah, you too. Thank you. Good talking to you.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode, guys. If you liked what you heard today, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we have tons of amazing guests lined up already to come onto the show in the next few months. Make sure to tune in next week and every Tuesday from now on at 8 a.m. as I have the associate head coach from Cornell University, 3-time ECAC champion, and someone who honestly had an enormous impact on my life and my career over the years, Ben Sire. Coach Sire and I chat about how we met, what he saw in me, what it takes to get to the next level and be considered for the Division I hockey, and what it takes to win a championship in college hockey. It was fantastic to reconnect with him and was just so awesome to record. I know you guys are going to love it, so make sure to tune back next week. Without further ado, here are the giveaway details for the NeuroTracker X subscription we're giving away. To enter the giveaway, if you're an Apple user, simply go to the Apple Podcast app on your phone and leave us a written review and rating. And if you're an Android user, you can also download iTunes onto your computer, search the show, and leave a written review and rating on there as well. Once you leave a review of the podcast, take a screenshot of it and either email it to goaliehacks@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram with your screenshot and your full name. If you guys are also interested in getting started with the product, feel free to hit me up either by email or Instagram direct messages to get more details. Get excited, guys. Great things ahead. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next week.